No, you stay down, okay? Stay down. You're a good boy. You lay down. You stay down, okay? Well, lay down.
Well, hello, hello. Nice to see you all. Great to be here. We have a very, very special guest with us this evening, a man who is renowned in the tropical fish industry uh, and has a long, long history working with animals of all types, most especially in his younger years with elephants. And we'll get him to talk about a recent experience he had with some elephants he helped to birth many years ago. Well, this is our fourth installment of the Noah Project, one we're real excited about. I had two people lined up this week, both of whom fell through. One of whom I was looking forward to spending the day with today, um, Rick Hahn from the Kentucky Mountain Zoological Park in Maryland, in Thurmont, Maryland. He has the coof. He's recovering, doing okay, but he's a man my age, so he's taking it a little easy. But we'll get him back another time. And Mr. Shields, Bill Shields, the man, the legend, is here with us. Bill and I are old friends. I've known not as old as many of the people. He's been around here for years, but I've known Bill for probably 20 years. Um, but when did you start with fish, Bill?
Well, I got my taste of the of the drug of fish when I was, I think, 6 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got the old standard back in the day drum goldfish bowl
Yeah.
with a pair of guppies and a snail in it.
Guppies in a set. Well, that's a good start. Better the
And then,
goldfish start.
yeah, they had babies. That was it. I was hooked.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got started. I think platies and guppies ran my first tank. We got a 20-gallon long, which just that wonderful story. My father got it for me if I promised never to bring another snake in the house. And that was a good deal for me. I appreciated that. But he would take me out. We go visit the local fish stores back in golly, that was 1948, 1949, long, long time ago. So you most recently were working for um, a big farm, which is also a big wholesaler for 5D. Is that right?
Yep, my last 15 and a half working years, I was the breeder at 5E Tropical.
And how many fish do you suppose you bred? Yeah, I know there's a number, a magical.
Well, well, it's because we used to keep pretty good records, and I went through and added them up to one time, and I could be Ray Kroc, McDonald's. I, I produced pretty near a third of a billion baby fish.
1/3 billion baby fish.
Now they went out to the ponds. They all don't come in. Of course, there's losses and whatever. But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's a lot of fish.
Well,
And then
we bred 52 weeks out of the year.
bred continuously.
Continue.
Yeah.
There's no. This was a big farm. This was the facility in Plant City has 325 ponds, and then we had a grow out facility in Arcadia, a couple hours south of the Tampa area, and they had 400 ponds there.
Wow.
So we're constantly putting fish out, harvesting fish, growing fish. Yeah, it was a continual thing. Seasonally, it depends. Certain fish breed different seasons. The injection, the hormone stuff, they're seasonal. But the little barbs, tetras, all the other fish are year round.
What were the hormone fish? What kinds?
Pacus, the iridescent sharks. They do Synodontis cats. They do clown loaches. A lot of the fish can't be conditioned and bred just from being kept in captivity. There's something missing. There's a little something we don't know yet, and that with the help of the USF lab, the Ruskin Lab, they're always working on producing new species and figuring out that the missing X factor.
Now you mentioned the Ruskin Lab. That started around the mid-90s, I guess.
Yeah, the lab in Ruskin probably mid-90s. They were Craig Watson, who's the director of the lab, was up in off of I-4, exit 10, and now is the USF Horticulture Center.
Sun City.
No. That the Ruskin was.
Oh, before that.
Yeah, no. Originally, it was up closer to Tampa, and it was kind of not really a pretty sight. Now the lab is high tech, modern.
Yeah, it's a very nice facility.
Yeah, real.
Yeah. I was working at a farm near there for about a year. That's no longer. It's right across from Parker's. You could see Parker's farm from this one. Can't remember what it was called now. It was about 100 ponds. I think the owner went into the real estate business. That was his plan, to fill in the ponds and sell off lots.
Unfortunately, a lot of them have done that.
Yeah, I'm sure. He was noteworthy for saying you can get rich raising tropical fish on paper.
Yeah.
The numbers work wonderfully until you get out there and are working with the actual fish in the ponds. And then
you actually have to contend with Mother Nature, and
yeah, exactly.
A lot of things can go sideways.
A lot of turtles, a lot of snakes, just all kinds of critters, much less disease. Now, you were involved then, more recently, in a major project in which you figured out how to produce substantial numbers of glowfish.
The glowfish, yeah. There's a venture capital company, Yorktown Enterprises. I think that was the name. It was Yorktown. They bought the rights to produce transgenic fish in the Western Hemisphere under the glowfish name, and they came from Asia. They were they're still doing them over there. They started out with Madaka, the rice fish, killifish, and it was a green one. And I remember when we started getting into it, I read up on it, and the original ones, the first ones that went to market, sold for 18, I think 75 US.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. The venture capital company Yorktown came down and got in contact with 5D and with Segrist Farms. They really didn't know Segrist at that point in time wasn't really a farm. They were,
Right.
yeah, uh, and we were, and they came down and they worked the deal out. And I worked with the scientist who at the time was in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Huh.
He was doing the process is fascinating. Now, I guess, because that's been, oh my goodness, what, 20 some years ago we started, the technology and the science has gotten, I'm sure, better and better. But he had to do thousands of injections. You're putting a foreign DNA particle into an egg at the one cell stage.
At the ones before that, before the egg began division.
Yep, has to be. That used to drive me crazy because I'll get into that in a minute. He'd send them down in these vials overnight. He'd overnight them to me, and they're zebra danios, and they hatch, and I had to grow them up to see if it took.
Ah.
Because it doesn't always take. This isn't injecting them or dyeing them. This is changing their DNA. This is adding a fluorescent component to their DNA. And I can tell you, it did not work in, I don't know, 90%, 99%,
Huh.
maybe 99.9%. We had to look for one that had some expression. And I had to raise that up and breed it to see if it passed it on. And then we worked on getting homozygous ones. And it was to me, it was very challenging because it was putting me back in college in the lab. The fish had to be identified as individuals and kept separate. And it was very good mentally for me to get back into that mode. Because once you're breeding mass quantities of commercial fish, you're setting up fish, but this was something I had to keep absolute track of every individual.
Wow. And how long did that process go on before you developed a breeding population?
I'm imagining that it took at least 2 years. I mean, Daniels have a pretty quick turnaround time from egg to breeder, but there's a lot of steps in between before you go. To get the homozygous ones, I had to have, well, the first color was red, we did. And I had these thousands of red zebra danios. Which one's a homozygous one, which one's a heterozygous one? You have no idea by looking at them, trust me.
Huh.
I was doing, when it came time to pick the homozygous fish for the brood stock, I had to do 384 fin clips 3 times a week and send them to the DNA lab to get the results back.
Really?
Oh yes. Well, that was, I had to do it. Mary's up visiting her sister, but I stole her cuticle scissors and her tweezers and a nut pick for my instruments. And I'd start early in the morning because I still had to do my regular breeding for the farm. And I had to do 384 3 times a week, put them in a box of dry ice, shipped them off. And they promised me it'd be like 7 to 10 days turnaround time. Not so much. It was a little longer. In the meantime, I had to keep all the fish individually in those big 16-ounce betta cups.
Huh.
They all had to be numbered. So when the results came back, I knew who was who. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to keep those, and I stacked them up in my breeding room, and I had to check them every day because you got to have one fish in a thing. I found out how to cure ick in a cup. I got the fin clips all came out of the same vat. But I'll be darned if you go through and then all of a sudden one of the 384 cups, fish is covered with egg.
Huh.
Don't ask. I have No idea. I mean, I know it's latent and it's around, and if the fish gets stressed, they can. But yeah, it was. But you had every fish was valuable. That fish could have been a homozygous fish, which would have been very valuable.
Right.
Yeah, well, that was fun. Then when I came back, that's when I did because I did my paperwork and I put my guess whether it was going to be homozygous or heterozygous. Couldn't tell.
Huh.
No, no phenotypic or way to tell by just outward appearance of the fish.
So, what do you think about glowfish?
What do I think about them? When we look around the house, I don't have any. Doesn't mean I don't like them. I don't like it, but I have native fish, I have cichlids, I have killifish, I have koi. They just don't really do anything for me. But for the hobby, I think they really invigorated the hobby. Because when I do, well, before the dreaded Rona came around, I did Great American Teach-In every year. I go to even after I retired, I go and borrow some glowfish from Seagrass from Sandy Moore. He always lent me a tank of glowfish for the kids because I did elementary school, and they loved them. They're fascinated by them.
Yeah, I know. That's right. There was a shop in New York that only sold glowfish.
Wow.
That's all they had. It's like the
Wow.
shops in Singapore. There was a shop in Singapore that only sold, what are they called? Oh God, my brain. Uh, what's the hybrid that has the hieroglyphics on the side of big cichlid? Gee whiz, my brain's gone. This is
That's
stupid.
not the bloody parrots.
Yeah. Well, that was part of it. Oh my word! Somebody here knows what I'm talking about. Flower horn. Thank you,
Oh,
Craig.
flower horns. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Craig. My brain gets old and addled. I can't. Anyway, there was a shop in Singapore that that's all they sold, and they had one fish in a tank. They were all big. They were like, I don't know, 29-gallon tanks, row after row of single fish tanks and flower horns. And there was one in New York City that only sold the glowfish. So yeah, it certainly did have an impact. I guess it's run its course.
Well, they come out with the new ones. They come out with the sharks, the rainbow sharks. Albino rainbow sharks are now fluorescent.
And the betta,
The betta,
I thought the betta was going to be nicer than it is. I was very excited about that, but it didn't turn out to be anything I expected.
yeah, well, marketing wise, is probably a good move for a next fish because you can keep them in a small nano tank.
The what? I'm
Without
sorry.
You could keep them in a nano tank,
What
small
what
tank,
what fish?
the betta.
Oh, the betta, right? Yeah,
Right, so it might increase your sales. People don't want to get a big tank set up because they don't have the addiction
right.
that some of us do.
Keep it a
And
couple. Yeah, that's right.
you have a nice little fluorescent fish on your desk at work or home.
Right, right. So who's breeding those? Do you know?
5D, as far as I know.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've been,
okay.
I've been retired now for 11 years.
Has it been that long? That's
Oh, 11,
amazing.
yeah. Hard to believe. Everybody says, "Oh, I said, no, it's 11 years."
Wow. I had no idea. I remember we had you as a speaker at the Venice Club 5 years ago. And that was a hot topic then. That was only
Okay,
5 years ago. Wow.
Well, let me put it this way: if you're gonna buy a fish, because I used to be in the you know, in the retail end of the business, back in the day, we had the painted glass fish
Right.
that always had emphasis, but that's another story. We had the painted glass fish. That was our spectacular fish. Then as things evolved, they got the dyed fish.
Right.
Oh, that's my little buddy barking.
The dyed tetras. Right.
Yeah, they dyed them, and then they came out with tattooing them.
Right.
Yeah, which
that was interesting.
Yeah, I still don't know. I'd like to see the videos of the process and how many unsuccessful. Because once you puncture the integrity of the skin, and they do it tamales, that always amazed me. The big Australimus, the big the white or the I guess they're just white ones. I don't think they're albinos. The true Grammys, Australimus.
That's right.
Yeah, they tattoo those, and they get big, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But the mollies, I used to get regular mollies in the store, and they if they weren't happy, they'd do the shimmy dance.
Right.
Yeah. So how they survive that? But anyhow, with the dyeing and they injected them too. They injected they put a little dye. All that stuff goes away. The tattoo doesn't.
Tattoo doesn't. Right.
No. But the glowfish, it's genetic. They have no choice. They're going to be that color from the time they're hatched till the time even after they die, they stay that color. There's no fading. There's no having to juice them with the hormones or anything. That's it.
Yeah, you're changing the nature of the animal.
Yep. So that to me is you're not misrepresenting the people, because people come in the store and they see the pretty fish that's dyed or injected or painted, and they don't understand that's going to go away.
Right. Right.
And they go at a premium price. So that's
right.
The glowfish. That's what it is. It has no choice.
How did they do the tattoo?
I don't know. I talk about it, but I never looked through YouTube to see if they got a video of it going on.
I haven't either. I have to look that up. It always kind of fascinated me. I mean, I experimented with it a little bit, and it was hopeless. I couldn't begin to figure out how they did that.
Well, the Ospremus, at least you got a bigger fish to work with. Those mollies, they came in just regular
exactly.
size, sellable molly, and they tattooed hearts on them and little flowers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the was that Osphornemus?
Osphornemus.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
True Grammy.
I've had Osphornemus like that.
Oh yeah,
I've had them 2 foot long. Yeah.
The store down in Brandon has one. It's humongous. It's got to be. Well, I think it's 19, 20 inches long.
Wow.
It's gigantic.
They're amazing fish. I've always liked them. The albino is my favorite of the Osphornemus. I think it's just stunningly beautiful fish. Like great big goldfish. Really, really gorgeous. Now, you're involved in another project and have been for years. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Probably do.
There's so many. The state fair.
I'm I don't even have a title. I don't guess. I'm the liaison, the guy in charge of the Florida State Fair Aquarium Beautiful competition. It's a competition that's open to any resident of the state of Florida. It's in February, unless there's COVID around, and they canceled the one year. But it's in February. It runs for 11 days. You set your tank up. Your tank's judged. And first, second, third place win money, not only a ribbon, but cash money. There's a professional division, adult division, a youth division, which is divided up into 3 age groups. And because of the lack of saltwater tanks being entered, we have an open division. Whoever shows up with the tank, they compete against the other saltwater tanks. And there's 5 classes. Nano tank, freshwater with plants, freshwater without plants, biotope, all the plants and fish from the same geographic area, and then the biggie that the kids always go crazy on, novelty, and anything you can come up with. And there's some fantastic tanks. This year we had 73 entries.
Huh,
The big year, yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Was
but
that
the
the
tanks,
biggest?
they come in, you got 4 days to set up, and then they become my tanks for 11 days, and then you come and take them home.
Ah.
It's in the Florida Center for Florida residents that are watching. It's in the Florida Center building where all the arts and crafts, the woodworking, the sewing, the baking, the horticulture, sales, and the competition are. So it's a labor of love. I love it because kind of like the glowfish, gets people interested in our hobby.
Right.
So that's the question.
How many people go through and see that?
How many the fair? There's tens of thousands every day. How many come to that building? It's in the thousands.
Every
And
day.
they're drawn to the tanks like a magnet. It's amazing. And I'm there. Depends on how many tanks and what's going on, and because I got to do feeding and water top off and sundry things. And while you're there, they're going to question you. It's like being in the store, and they're just fascinated. How do they get them here? Can they bring it? Do they set them up here? I mean, it's just every question you can imagine. And
right.
Hopefully, I've inspired people to set up a tank somewhere along the line.
Right. Yeah, it's an enormously exciting project. And there have been some interesting results. Last year, I guess our shrimp master and his children, Eater, and his kids won prizes.
Yep, Jaden and Grant, his father, both won Best of Show.
Amazing. And how old is his son?
Jaden is, I think he's just turned 9, but he grew up in it.
Right, he did.
You can go to, here's a plug for his YouTube channel, Garden of Eater. His whole house, he has over 300 tanks in his house.
Yeah, it is a shrimp house.
Yeah, Layla, his daughter, Jaden's sister, she has tanks in her room. Jaden has them in her. They're everywhere. Plus, right. He's got the 250-gallon totes out in around the pool. He's got a
lot of them. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, I've been to his home. It's extremely impressive. These are not little totes. These are I don't know what 500-gallon tubs.
250, I think, Luke.
Pardon? The big ones.
I think they're 250.
250, is that right?
250, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. And he must have 20 of them.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, one after the other. Plus greenhouse. And he said to me at one point he was thinking about just moving out and giving the house over to the shrimp. Mm-hmm. Which I guess eventually he'll do. He's living in a neighborhood, in a development, just in a regular house. And right. I guess one of his neighbors also, his next door neighbor, I think, keeps fish.
No, I've never met him. I've been to the house.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It is amazing. So, what was his display? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm looking there. I don't see anything on this that where I could pull them up. Well,
I could do that probably.
Let me see if I got because I got pictures on the phone. I don't know how it'd work on the. There's also he did a video of the state fair too on his YouTube.
Here we go.
like this program. No, quiet.
Let's see. Aquascape, that's 2019.
Oh,
Here's one.
that's 2014.
That's old, huh?
Yeah, that's an old one.
Let's see if I can get a. Oops.
Dude's Garden of Eden. Oh, well, hang on. There's one piece.
Not coming up. Let's see. I'm just getting this. Let me see if there's another.
There you go.
Oh, here's one.
Yeah, that's one there.
There's a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
What's the red ribbon?
Red is second place.
And here's a blue ribbon right next to that one.
Yeah, that was.
That's 2019.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's 2019 because they lost the signs they had.
Huh. Let's see what else. Oh, that's something else. Well,
Can you type in the search bar?
yeah.
Yeah, type Garden of Eden because he's got a good one. On there.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is. I'm. I'm in the wrong place. Garden of Eden. That's something different again. That's not him.
What is this picture? Go to all. Don't do images. Do all. Yes,
See.
Garden of Eden shrimp. There you go.
Oh, right.
There it is.
There we go. Some tanks of his shrimp.
It's, it's phenomenal.
That is amazing. Yeah. And he's a young guy. He just.
Yeah, he's a young guy. He used to have a landscape business. He worked with his father in the landscape business. He took it over, and now he does shrimp full time. He also competes at a lot of aquascaping around the country.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's up.
Let's see what we got. Let's take a look in the chat. See what people are talking about here. Let's see. How come they only modify a few species? Is there a reason? Craig, that's an interesting question. He's saying the modification is only done on a few species. Why is that?
I don't see the chat, but they're talking about the. No way, I can see it. They're talking about the glowfish.
Yeah.
Here's a scope on the glowfish. The zebra danio was the first one because that's the lab rat. That's the fish lab rat of science. Okay.
Right.
Because they reproduce quickly and they're easy to maintain and yada yada yada. But the problem comes in with like a lot of problems. Or government. Glowfish are not under the USDA.
Huh.
They're considered a medicine, a drug, FDA.
Really?
Yes.
So
So
that's
the hoops and the hurdles and the paperwork to get a species approved is costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time.
huh.
And the scientist I worked with, it did yeoman's work. I think he was double PhD, very smart man. They moved him down to the farm eventually because it's like a long distance romance. First business, you got to be up close and personal.
Right, right.
Yeah, but yeah, we did it, and we did one color at a time because it takes so long.
I
To
remember
go through the
that.
regulatory, the testing. I mean, it's staggering. It's staggering. Once we got whatever species it was, and we got the color, uh, he did all the because they all come from one fish because that's patented and trademarked. We he was running all the stuff he had to do for the government while I was building up brood stock. Because when you start with one fish, it takes a while to get up the production numbers.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the regular. I don't even call it, the regular Danios, the zebras, the pearls, the longfin stuff, all that stuff. I'd set up 4,000 3 times a week.
Huh.
So yeah, to get to that type of number of
Volume.
brood stock, it takes a little while. When you start,
4,000. You set up 4,000 pairs or
they're
4,000
they're gang
mixed.
spawners.
Yeah.
The
The
great,
gang spawn. Right. Okay.
you want,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll plug YouTube again. You want to see something really really cool? You go to I Spawn. It's I don't know if it's a medical facility or a university, but they're breeding them to do whatever research on, and they all got to be the same age. But they got a thing that's it's probably several $1,000s for it, but it looks like a Zephyr Hills 5-gallon Zephyr Hills jug, and it has 2 trays in them. They put the males in one tray, and then put the other tray in, and then put the females in that, leave them sit overnight, and then in the morning they dump them together and raise the tray up, and they're in about 1.5 2 inches of water, and it looks like snow coming down.
Really? The
Oh yeah,
eggs.
it's
Huh.
amazing.
Wow. Let's see. I'll show you where I'm at. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that's not it though. See, I'm not. Oh, hang on, I'll get it on my. Let's leave the technology. I got my phone here. Let me go to YouTube. You on YouTube?
Yeah. Is it on YouTube?
I think so. I'll check. Let's check it real quick.
That'd be easier to find.
Yeah, I spawned zebra breeding at Children's Hospital. I used all lowercase for them. There you go. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Zebrafish breeding at Children's Hospital. Oh, there! Look at the eggs.
Now, so
See the eggs falling.
this is just the opening. On this, and this is how the guy had to do the injections. And those little petri plates.
Where did that go? Here it is.
Yeah, there it goes. They're separated to 2 screens. They dumped them together. There he's dumping all the sexes together.
Huh. These females are pretty heavy.
And
They
there's some
really,
eggs.
wow.
They'll show one of the
No,
look at all those eggs,
oh my word. That's solid eggs.
solid eggs. And that container is what he shipped the injected embryos down to me in. Same thing.
Huh.
But people wanting to breed Danny, everybody worries about, oh, no, here, that's how much water you breed them in. You don't, they don't have to be,
About 1 inch, right?
yeah, 1 inch. That's one of the misconceptions when I do the commercial fish farming program. People are trying to breed these fish in way too much water.
Huh.
Maybe cichlids or, but all the barbed steppers, they breed in shallow water.
Now, yeah, I've been collecting Elosoma evergladi in significant numbers. In fact, I got 2 trips I'm going out in the next week, and I find the males spawning in half an inch of water.
Yep, that is shoreline.
Right on the shoreline where there are plants growing up and out of the water. And they're up there now. The females are out in deeper water. If they're floating plants in the area, they'll be in those floating plants out in 1 foot, 2 foot of water. And as they egg up, they come in looking for a male. So those males are holding court. They've got territories all along the bank. The females, when they're ready to spawn, will come up, find a male, they'll spawn, and then she'll take off.
I watched the marginatus, the green sunfish.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we're at a park. And I'm looking down off the boardwalk, and I thought it was some floriosus, Enocanthus floriosus spawning.
Yeah.
Like water's kind of a little murky, and I could see the blue fins, and I said, "Oh, that's got." But there's a shallow pit, real shallow water, and the male would run out into the deeper water and lure a female back in and spawn.
Huh. Really?
I caught him.
Wow.
I almost didn't get out because it was pretty muddy, but I caught him. I brought him home. Male's considerably bigger. Put him in a 20 long with some usual clay pots and whatever wood in there. Didn't see the female. I thought he either chased her out, because of course I didn't have a top on it, or he killed her and whatever. Next day I saw her. She's hiding up in the corner behind a piece of fake wood. I got her out. Next day, there's a male sitting over a flat stone. He's got a black cloud around him.
Oh my word.
They're beautiful fish, but they're very nasty.
Yeah.
Very nasty. We sent them off I raised them up, and my good friend Charlie Nunziata knew a researcher that was doing something with the native fish, the marginatus, and he said he'd like them, so I sent them all to him.
Nice.
I don't know. There's a bunch of them in there, but yeah, that was fun.
Now,
Day collecting was always a good day.
Right. I got something else I want to talk about here. Something else you've been involved in.
Oh, the Florida Collecting Guide. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is an amazing piece of work. It's out of print currently.
Yeah, we're out of print now. It sold very well. We sold it. We're having it printed, and we sold it for $35. It cost us. Whoops. It cost us $30 to have printed, and we donated the $5 whatever was left to NAMFA, North American Native Fish Association. So, sounds out, Lou.
There, I'm back.
Okay. I don't
I
know how much.
touched the wire.
Yeah, I don't know how much that went out, but yeah, our printing cost for with the binder and everything is $30. We sold it for 35, and we donated the profits to the North American Native Fish Association.
Hey, guess who's here? Garden of Eater.
Oh, all
He
right.
just popped in.
Hey, Grant.
Nice to see you, Grant.
For your ears burning, we're talking about you.
Yeah, he's saying, I wish I had gotten one. I sold them at my shop.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I was buying like 10 at a time.
10 at a time. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, the evolution of that. We had a Belgian friend, Henri de Bruin. He used to come over. He stayed down in Sarasota. Had a place down there, a trailer in the carport, which he had a wall of fish tanks on. The avid collector, avid killifish guy.
Yep.
But back in the 80s, Africa, his European friends, he would go to Africa to collect. It got a little too dangerous. So, well, let's do Florida.
Huh.
They did the perimeter of Florida. Started up at the border, all the way down the coast, all the way up the coast in the Panhandle, and he kind of kept records. We had a page and a half with fish he caught and kind of sort of the GPS coordinates.
Right.
So our group, the Suncoast Killifish, Nampa guys, we started doing collecting trips. We go on 4-day collecting trips. Those fall trawl, those spring fling, whatever we called it. But we go up and we collect it and document it our sites a little more accurately. And over the years, we had a bunch of stuff. So it was compiled. Charlie Nunziata and Brian Skidmore and our IT guy, who's unfortunately passed, Mike Jacobs, compiled all the information we'd logged, and it turned into the Florida Collecting Guide, which we did four printings of it, and they all sold out.
Yeah. Any plans to do anything more with it?
That's still in discussion.
Right. There ought to be a way to do it as a hardback or as a paperback.
Yeah.
That would be a lot less expensive.
Yeah. Well, there's foldouts in there. There's big foldout maps and.
I know, that's right.
Everything is cross-referenced by the Gazetteer.
Right.
Aquarium Gazetteer. There's page references and grid references, plus the GPS, plus what we collected there.
Yeah.
It's invaluable, and we recollected. One interesting thing is just because you collect something at that site on a given day doesn't mean you're necessarily going to collect it there the next time.
Right. Right.
Because conditions change, the weather, the sun, whatever. But you know they were there.
Yeah. You got up to the Panhandle, did a lot up there.
We did a lot. I'm telling you, anybody gets a chance, you go to the Panhandle in the spring of the year. We used to go in April. All the carnivorous plants are blooming. Yeah, our one trip, my first 137 pictures were pictures of plants.
Huh.
A lot of pitcher plants, actually. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All the species of pitcher plants are there. The two varieties of sundews, and there's the invasive, ever-loved Venus flytraps up there, which are introduced. There's so many of them, you can't hardly step without stepping on them.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow. I was there many years ago. Did not collect. I was beachcombing at the time.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time on the beaches, and that was pretty extraordinary. It's had a lot of fun.
But we had a lot of fun up there.
I really want to go back. I'm trying to get my van set up with a bed so I can go up there and sleep over in it.
The one I do a collecting program too, but the one interesting picture I have in there, we went to this little convenience store to get a soda or something to eat at lunchtime, whatever it was. They got a sign on the door: rattlesnakes, $3 a foot, have to be at least 3 foot long.
That's live rattles.
No, I think they prefer dead ones, but they
Is that right?
you're out in the boonies.
Amazing. That's fun. Never saw anything like that. That would be cool.
Yeah, furthest, well, we've gone all the way up to in Alabama. We've collected in Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Ah, I want to get
to North Carolina the one time. The air temperature was 34 degrees. It was in November.
wow.
Yeah, and even with waders on, it's a little chilly. No,
Yeah, really. I'm going up to Lakeland collecting next week, and I'm hoping to get one of those pikes, the little
the American pike,
the little red
fin?
yeah, the little red
The
pike.
redfin, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to get one. I had a pickerel years ago that I caught in the Chesapeake Bay, and it was a fabulous fish, just amazing, beautiful fish. These only get about 9 inches, from what I
We're up
understand.
collecting. I think we're collecting Funless Blairi. I think that was a rainwater pond. It was beautiful, crystal clear. We're going along, and I'm collecting in the grass. I was standing on the bank collecting in the grass. I look behind me, and here's one of these redfin pickerel coming. He's
Wow.
following me, getting the stuff that I'm chasing out.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly.
Uh,
I saw a 2-foot spotted gar today behind the Publix in a borrow pit
wow.
here in Venice. It was coasting right down the shoreline looking for something to eat. Everything is so dry. The water level's down 10 feet.
Yeah, we're dry here too.
Yeah, just really bad. Well, let's talk about one more thing here. I want to talk about the Lacy Act. I think I've been talking about it here with this crowd for a month or more. But this
the America Competes Act.
Yeah, it's an amendment to the American Competes Act, which was passed by the House of Representatives about 6 weeks ago. It's one of 400 amendments to that act. Now, the act has nothing to do with these amendments. They're completely aside from the main purpose of the act. It was
passed March 29th.
Passed then, okay.
Yeah.
Now
it's in negotiations to come up with the final version.
Right. It went to the Senate. The Senate had an earlier version. So they've now set up a committee which is meeting as we speak to merge those two. And our hope is that the Senate leaders will insist on dropping all of the amendments, or at least most of them, so that we can get past this thing. But it's a genuinely devastating act. It will have the effect, no matter how they implement it, it will have the effect of destroying the small animal industry in this country. It'll terminate it. It will no longer, it's a marginal business. These are marginal businesses. Nobody's getting rich on animals. And when you cut the legs out from under it, think about it. All of the shows, all of the major shows for tropical fish, for reptiles, for birds, all of those will be ended because it'll be illegal to ship these animals across state lines.
That's the devastating part, or one of the devastating parts. The other devastating part is they have they come up with some vague language about the well, if it was commercially imported or shipped, but they give no numbers. That's to be determined after. Let's pass it to see what's in it. Somebody else after it's passed will come up with those numbers. So it'll eliminate all the seasonal fish.
Yeah, it'll eliminate, and there will never be a new fish. There will never be a rare or endangered fish. There will never be a fish that's too difficult to identify because they've got to have people identifying this stuff. They'll probably put a complete ban on shipping in eggs because there won't be any way to distinguish species by looking at eggs. So that's going to go. It just goes on and on and on. Now, one of the real issues for me is we've been working for the last 10, 15 years in trying to secure and protect certain biotypes and biospheres around the globe, particularly in South America. Project Piaba has been doing this for at least 10 years. And there are other projects trying to do the same thing. Those are predicated on being able to sell those animals in the trade in order to be able to derive enough income to sustain the local natives in those habitats in order to keep the habitats healthy and sound. All that goes away with this act.
Absolutely. It destroys what the big hobby groups are doing with the CARES Act, the KCC and the killifish, killie conservation.
Right. CARES is another one. That's right. CARES goes away.
Yep.
It'll be illegal to keep CARES fish.
That's right. We'll all become criminals.
Yeah. Now,
yeah, I maintain two species of fish for killies that are either endangered or extinct in the wild, or the one is the Gardneri massage, but it's a kind of an easy killie. And in the killie hobby, people get tired of a fish, and then it's gone, and then there is no more importations because exactly the habitat's gone now.
Yep, right.
Yeah, a lot of the collectors that go back to Africa and they got their coordinates, they go to the coordinate, well, there's a road there now.
Right.
Yeah, gone.
Right. It goes to fish that are common. It could be a very common fish that we're used to seeing and used to having. Those fish, unless they're being bred in substantial numbers in captivity, if they're wild caught, wherever they come from, that environment could disappear literally overnight. I heard something recently that shocked me. Watching native videos, people who visit native peoples, particularly in the tropics. I was fascinated by the toxin that was being used to be able to stun fish to collect them as food. Turns out that is not an ancient technology. That's something that was developed pretty recently and has just been employed globally by native people literally all over the world. The effect of it is to kill everything in that environment. It doesn't just stun the fish, it kills the microfauna. It basically kills everything. It completely destroys the environment, and it stays destroyed for who knows how long, decades probably. Uh, Collectors have gone back where it's been used and can find nothing alive. So if this were an ancient technology, it would have been abandoned years ago because it has the effect of completely destroying the biotope. That kind of shocked me because it was presented as something clever and smart that native people do. Turns out wasn't smart at all. It's really pretty dumb and pretty destructive.
That's the same as the saltwater collectors using the cyanide.
Yeah, same difference. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you buy expensive saltwater fish, and it doesn't die immediately.
Yeah, they can keep it alive long enough to get it into a local store and maybe
you
in your
destroy
tank,
the intestinal tract, and it slowly withers away.
which is part of the reason it's been so hard to keep saltwater fish. That's improving. It's better. But that's another example of a species of animal that will not be on the list. There may be clownfish that'll about let it out. Nothing wild caught is going to be able to, not saltwater, will be on the list because it's not collected in substantial numbers.
Once again, they didn't give any numbers. To be determined.
No, that's right.
To be determined.
Yeah, and the reality
is seasonal.
The reality is what they're really talking about is animals that are shipped in very large numbers, for which there is a substantial global breeding population. There are probably 150 to 200 species that fall into that category that are shipped by the millions around the world. Those are the fish you find in the big box stores. So that's really what we're talking about. When this thing goes through and it all shakes out, the only place you'll be able to buy a tropical fish will be in a big box store. And you'll only be able to buy 100 to 150 species that they carry because that's all that will be allowed. Oh, you probably will be able to keep your fish in your tanks, although the likelihood is once this gets implemented, they're going to try to come after you and me and everybody else. But in France and in Australia, the hobbyists fought back when it came to that. And they were able to defeat that action, that interest on the part of the government to take all of your fish and destroy them because they're not on the list of acceptable items.
Yeah, once you give the government power, it sometimes gets out of control.
It doesn't give it back, does it?
Nope.
And it's a one size fits all. That's the other issue. You know, they're talking about wanting to protect us from invasive species. And they define invasive species as any animal imported that's capable of living in the United States or its territories. Now, the reality is nothing nothing escapes that. There is not a living animal on earth that is incapable of living in the U.S. or its territories. Where that includes a lot of very tropical environments. And anything that can survive in a U.S. tropical environment is automatically banned because it becomes a potential invasive species. And it's not just banned here in Florida, it's banned in Alaska. It's banned across the entire nation. If it's banned in one place, it's banned in all places. So this is very, very, very bad law that has an effect that is so destructive. The unintended consequences of it are to bring absolute destruction on animals that are rare, that are endangered, whose environments are threatened. They will cease to exist. This will cause an extinction event such as we have been trying to avoid for decades. Bill,
Yeah,
thank
as
you.
you said, hopefully they kick out all these amendments. That's a process, not just on this animal stuff that's been injected. Every bill, you have one point, you have one goal, vote on that. Next item, please.
Well, and that's the real problem here. I mean, the reality is this amendment will never be discussed. It will never come up for debate. It will not. It's an amendment. It's a tag along. It happens in darkness, and it'll never go away. That's right. And it'll impact here in Florida. It will shut down a billion-dollar industry, a major industry in the state.
Yeah, they make it illegal to go interstate, crossing state lines. That okay. Now what?
Yeah, right. That means killifish.
Yeah.
There will be no killifish on that list. How could they possibly put killifish on the list? There's no way to do it.
Nope.
The other issue is they've got to train people to identify these species. So they're going to keep that number workable so that they can train people to know precisely what an animal is when they spot it. Far too many animals look like far too many others. None of those will be on the list because they won't be able to identify them. Bill, I want to thank you for coming up and being part of this.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed just going through some of your history.
Yeah, it's a animal world history for sure.
Animal world history.
I told all my children, don't get in the animal business. They don't respect holidays, weekends.
Yeah, it's like being a dairy farmer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. You don't get away from it. Bless you, Bill. Happy. No, we're going to have you this summer come down to the Venice Aquarium Society and do a program. We've been live streaming our meetings, so the folks here will get another shot at you in a few months.
That's if there's any positives that came out of the COVID stuff, the Zoom or however you put your meetings out, a lot of clubs are still doing that, even though they're meeting in person. And it opens up your speaker base.
It does.
Because you eliminate a big expense.
That's right. Flying them out.
You got to
Right.
fly them in, put them up. And I've been all over the country, so I've been part of the expense of some clubs.
Yeah.
But and not only that, a lot of the speakers, some of those poor people, oh, they still will have to go into work for a living. So unless your meeting's on a weekend,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
to get them there like we used to have to do on a Monday night, it's kind of tough. But your whole pool of speakers opens up if they could do like we're doing here. I'm sitting at my dining room table.
We had a speaker from the Amazon Research Center speak to our club a couple of months ago. He was sitting in the airport in an airport in Southern California on his way to Peru
Yeah,
when he
it
did the
wasn't.
program. That was amazing. That was fun.
Yeah, I've sat in on the New England Cichlid Association. They've had speakers from Europe. Of course, there you got the time difference, but they'll do that.
Right, right.
They're sitting
Well,
home.
yeah, we usually have people in here from Europe and from Indonesia, from the Philippines. A lot of folks from Australia. It's really very much a global experience. Well, thank you again, Bill.
Well, you're more than welcome.
Delighted to have you here. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. And I know everybody thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. We'll get you back. We'll do this again.
I'll hopefully be around for a long time yet.
Really? Yeah, me too.
Not ready to hang it up after 76 years. So.
Well, I'm 81, so you got to catch up to me. Nice to have you all here. Thanks for coming in. We'll be back Friday night. I'm going to be doing. We'll be visiting some people's fish tanks. So get ready if you want to come up and show us your tanks or something else you're doing that you're excited about. I'll be here 8:30 Friday evening. See you all then.